Hello and welcome to Business Today. I am Palak Agarwal and we are here at U.S India Business Council's special summit in Bangalore and joined by Ambassador Atul Keshap, President USIBC, U.S Chamber of Commerce.
Hi, Palak.
Hello. So as we are celebrating 50 years of USIBC, how do you see the next decade of U.S India partnership evolving?
Well, we are two of the most dynamic, innovative countries on earth, and I think that our innovation and our democracy and our diversity really sets us apart. So I'm very ambitious about what we can achieve in the next 10 years, especially in terms of our technological convergence.
Okay. And what are the key requirements USIBC is driving to ensure that the US-India business relations remain resilient, especially amid geopolitical flux?
So, Pollock, the key thing for business is predictability and coherent regulations that allow businesses to make long-term decisions about capital allocation, long-term investments. If they feel like they've got the regulatory conditions that permit them to make those decisions, then they make commitments over multi-decades and multi-billions of dollars. So I think for both governments, U.S. and India, predictability is very important. Making sure that the regulations are best in world for attracting high quality investment, and then keeping that innovation engine going so that we can lead the world in terms of the products and services that will help our citizens live healthier and happier and better lives.
So you talked about regulation. If I have to ask you about the tariff, with the new tariff and the negotiation deal still going on, there is nothing in sight so far. How do you see it will affect the India-US partnership? Is it concerning somehow?
So let's talk about what's at stake. When I was in government service, there was a lot of work, really good work between the U.S. and India to build up a whole list of strategic agreements, the nuclear deal, the military agreements, the counterterrorism agreements, the scientific and outer space agreements. In fact, there's an Indian astronaut in space right now, and so it's a moment for all of us to celebrate. So there has been so much work on the strategic side, but there hasn't been as much on the economic side. Indeed, the only major economic agreement between our countries is an Open Skies Treaty passed in 2005 that really helped power the growth of aviation between the U.S. and India. From the perspective of the business community, from the U.S. Chamber's perspective, USIBC perspective, our member companies, we applaud the efforts of both governments to conclude a negotiation. We very much view an agreement as a good baseline for continued progress in economic innovation between the U.S. and India, and it would complement the strategic side of the equation with finally an agreement on the economic side between our two countries about trade and investment. So I'm very hopeful, and I hope that both governments succeed and that it creates even more opportunity for business in both directions.
So if you can tell us how we are gearing up for levy of the reciprocal tariff from July 9 onwards, right? So how are we gearing up?
Well, look, I think both governments have had very high-quality discussions. My sense is that they have approached this with a feeling of mutual respect and constructive engagement. Negotiations can always get a little bit tough, especially between two very complicated democracies like the U.S. and India. But think about how many tough negotiations we have succeeded in the past. I worked in the embassy here during the era of the nuclear deal. If we can get that done, I'm certain we can get this done. And I think we both, Washington and Delhi, America and India, your companies, our companies, understand that this is a win-win for each other. It's a win-win for the world. So, look, there's some tough details they got to work through. That's why they negotiate. But it has to be, I think, almost a compulsion for us to get this done so that we can unleash even more agreements and even more prosperity and even more economic growth for our people.
So, do you think that India still have a competitive advantage vis-a-vis China?
Well, here's what I think about India. First of all, it's the world's greatest democracy, the world's biggest democracy. It's got 1.4 billion people, extremely talented people. The rate of economic growth in this country is impressive. The amount of effort the government has put in to ease of doing business, speed of doing business, the hard work of building the necessary infrastructure for a modern economy, railways, ports, airports, highways, you name it, hospitals, healthcare, etc. The digital economy in this country, the fintech backbone of this country. India is poised for even more growth into the future. And because of India's demographic advantage, India is going to grow and grow and grow for probably decades to come. So that is in itself not just an advantage vis-a-vis any other one country, it's an advantage globally. And I think India understands that the next 25 years are critical for achieving the vision of an India that's completely developed. So I think you've got a great set of cards that you're playing. We are natural allies, as Atal Bihari Vajpayee said, between the U.S. and India. And our companies are increasingly innovating and collaborating more and more for solutions and platforms that are good for humanity, what to speak of our two peoples.
So, from your vantage point, how do you see India-U.S. relationship? And given earlier there have been talks about the $500 billion trade deal, so how do you see, where does the two countries stand now?
So there's been an enormous amount of collaboration between our countries on technology. And this is because of shared strategic apprehensions, and it's also because the U.S. and India trust one another. The pandemic taught us how much we can trust one another. So I have a lot of hope and faith that in the areas that USIBC and its member companies focus on and the thought leadership that we do, including at our Jubilee Summit that's about to take place next door, that we will find ways to expand the economic and trade relationship in each of those areas, whether it's in financial services and fintech, energy, digital economy, food, agriculture, retail, manufacturing, semiconductors, artificial intelligence, quantum computing. The list is endless. If we create the right regulatory and policy structures, businesses in both countries will innovate together. They will invest in each other's countries. I think we can make it to $500 billion, especially if there's a signal from both governments that they have made a trade deal for the first time ever that can be empowering to the two great business communities of our free markets.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us.
Pollock, it's great to see you. Thank you very much.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.